Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're looking at the Grenade Mercenary Witch Hunter. This is actually an update to my previous build that I did recently. Well, I guess you want to call it recently, about a couple of months ago, trying to use Explosive Grenade and Explosive Shot as the combo to actually have things pop off on screen. I took a couple of things from creators like Fearless Dumbo, Asmondius, as well as Locahol, and I saw what they were doing with their builds. I then kind of put it together and sort of mishmash with what I thought would work the best. And here's what I came up with. An explosive grenade, gas grenade build that honestly clears a lot and even gets me up to Zest +2. Now, of course, my Zest +2 kill hasn't happened just yet because honestly, it's more of a skill check for me rather than just an actual DPS check. And we'll put the footage in the game as well later on. The way this build works is very simple. You explosive grenade, gas grenade. Your gas grenade pops first, and your explosive grenade pops, making sure everything just pops right in front of you. Pretty simple. Now, in terms of skills, the way this operates is pretty easy as well. For Sorcery Ward, we want to go ahead and add Cold Mastery, Fire Mastery, and Lightning Mastery. This increases our level for Sorcery Ward. For Explosive Grenade, we want Martial Tempo to increase the attack speed, Magnified Effect specifically, because Fearless Dumbo exposed that even though Concentrated Effect gives you a better sheet DPS when you're playing the game or on the actual POB or on the skill, Magnified Effect is actually doing more damage because those explosions are overlapping with each other, which means the more they overlap, the more damage they do, and enemies that are actually in the area take more damage overall, increasing clear, and even for single target as well, helps a lot too. We are doing Primal Armament to increase elemental damage. We're doing Immolate because we already have the Radiant Grief Lace Hood, which is the only build unique in the game that we need for this build, which does in fact ignite enemies in our presence, so that's already done, as well as Fast Forward to reduce the skill effect duration. There's more of that in this build as well. For gas grenades, we've got Elemental Focus, we've got Scatter Shot, Heft, Fire Infusion, as well as Inspiration to reduce mana cost. For Flash Grenade, we're running Armor Explosion, so that way we'll break armor with that. Soul Thief to go ahead and bring back mana when we go ahead and use a Flash Grenade. Devastate, so that way we can fully support breaking armor while we inflict a heavy stun, which goes ahead and triggers the Armor Explosion. Brutality to go ahead and do more physical damage, and Overpower to cause more stun buildup, basically breaking through a lot of the diminishing returns for stuns, which is really nice for single target as well. Oil Grenade, we've got Strip Away, Encumbrance, Despoiler, and Persistence. We do have enough int, about 55 for flammability as well. So we have Arcane Tempo and Hex Bloom. This way we can reduce the actual amount of fire resist the enemies have. Artillery Ballista has been the one thing that I think has really pulled this build together as well skill-wise. It helps out a lot with single target and also gives us rage as well as mana regeneration. So we've got Ancestor Urgency for totem placement speed, Font of Rage, Overabundance for having 2 totems, as well as Font of Mana as well. So even though people don't like to play with totems specifically, I like to have it here so I can just have that space and then be able to go ahead and have rage and mana regeneration to solve a couple of those problems as well. Now, in terms of auras that we're going to be using, I'm not going to be using Herald of Ash. We don't really need it, as enemies are already going to be ignited in our presence. I feel like Attrition is a much better skill to have, giving us more damage the longer we're in that boss fight that we're doing. So single targets, boss fights, elites can go down quite quickly, especially having it that way. Wind Dancer is incredibly important to this build overall. Right off the bat, it's going to give us a lot of really good defensive layers, and I figured out a way for us to have a bit more leeway when getting attacked and hit with damage. We have Pin, we have Blind, we have Wind Wave, and we have Unbreakable for Wind Dancer specifically. This way, when Wind Dancer is procced via an attack or damage, the enemy is blinded, pinned, stunned, and of course, we have better stun threshold for ourselves. So we're not stun locked and locked down and can't do anything and we're out of the way. The enemy is locked down as well. We have the ability to go ahead and do some more damage. For Attrition, which I didn't go over, we have Precision, Clarity, Cannibalism, as well as Vitality. So those are the skill trees that we're going to be needing for this build. Now, in terms of the passive skill tree, here's where we go for the actual Witch Hunter. We're going to be going with Sorcery Ward because it's going to be incredibly important to have that elemental defenseness because we don't really have Energy Shield and we're using Evasion more than anything. We're also getting Decimating Strike and Pitiless Killer. So if we're having Culling Strike as well as Decimating Strike as well, that way we go ahead and do more damage to enemies on low life. We're going to go down this way here as well to get Remorselessness, move over to Feel No Pain, Battle Hardened, as well as getting more attack speed and area of effect. I do like these two nodes here for AoE, but you don't need them if you don't want to. You can put them other places as well, but I feel like they're going to be necessary here. Increasing our armor and evasion is always good. Going down to cooldown recovery rate, which is absolutely necessary for this build. More two-handed weapon damage as well. Going down to picking up all these grenade nodes here, and then getting these nodes here for armor and evasion, as well as evading melee attacks on top of that. Going down as well, more CDR, having more grenade damage on top of that. Going this way, and then picking this, careful consideration. 30% reduced evasion rating if you've been hit, 100% increased evasion rating if you haven't been hit. The reason why I picked this and not escape strategy is because this will lower your evasion rating below the 75% mark, which I feel is going to be the best place to be in terms of having evasion. Now we'll go up over here as well with some couple of gems, which you want to have with attack speed, projectile damage, and also just crossbow stuff as well, or fire damage. This one has bows. It's not a great gem, but we're still working on an SSF. Getting Catalysis is super important as well. Getting more evasion and having more dodge roll while you're evading is good too. And movement speed is super important. We have about 36% increased movement speed with this character. So even wearing armor evasion gear, we're still looking pretty good. Going down here as well, having attack damage and movement speed, and also being able to maim on hit for 25% chance. Here as well, increase skill speed, which is good, and movement speed on top of that. Down here, we're going to be getting the attack speed as well, having grenades explode a second time, going over to Authority for increased area of effective attacks, and then the big one that really puts us all together is Incendiary, where enemies that are burning take 30% increased damage, which goes ahead and ties into having the Radiant Grief Lace Hood. So, what you want to look for in terms of gear is going to be armor, evasion, life, mana, as well as your typical resistances. Nothing too crazy as well. You're going to need some extra spirit, at least 47 plus, and some of your stats going to have 120, 120, and 57 int. There is going to be, in fact, a POB link in the description down below, so you'll have that as well. I'm fully res capped. We're pretty much good to go. Let's go ahead and grab a map so I can show you guys how this actually works. Please don't mind the mirror. It just dropped for me. And as you can tell, I've already cleared Zesht as well. Playing SSF and getting a mirror is a lot of fun for a lot of nothing. So go to the map device. We'll pick a map with Breach on there so I can show you guys how this actually runs. So here in a map, I just kind of want to show you guys how this actually operates. You don't really need to use a lot of skills besides explosive grenade and gas grenade, because everyone's going to be ignited and you're just going to basically pop off on everyone and just run through the actual map. That's it. This is the entire setup. This is how I play. It's left click, right click, and then I just go through there. If anything's still alive or if I get stuck, then I'll throw out a flash grenade as well. Or if things become a bit overwhelming because I'm getting a little bit too cocky, then I'll use a flash grenade on top of that. I only use oil grenades and the curse for flammability to reduce resistances for bigger enemies, but this is just pretty much showing that, hey, I can clear breaches, I can clear basically everything. I've done Zesht +1, I'm working on Zesht +2, but like I said, that is more of like a skill-based thing because I usually choke up when I try to record anything instead of actually just, focusing on the fight. I kind of want to get cocky a little bit, and I'll show you guys what I mean with this. As you can tell, I'm clearing the breach pretty easily, the breach pretty easily. It's not too bad at all. I just opened up a second one because it's just so much easier to do it this way rather than to try and go ahead and figure things out. As you can see, I got stuck a little bit, but it's mostly on the area itself. But everything's just basically falling apart in front of me. They're already ignited. They're already on fire. It's a very easy build to play. Because of the high amount of evasion, you rarely ever do get hit. But when it does happen, you kind of just want to use your roll, get out of the way, use your flash grenade so that way you're not stuck in an area where you'll take damage. So your HP is going to be a big thing. My HP pool is very low from what I currently have. My mana pool is around 670. There are other ways that I could get more stuff. Yeah, I could sell the mirror. I could do other things as well, but either way, I'm getting slowed down by some ice here. But either way, this has been really easy for me to run through, especially doing bosses as well. Having the additional totems for extra damage and single target damage has incredibly helped DPS overall, but it's really been a lot easier just to run through this kind of thing and not have to worry or focus on what am I doing, how many buttons am I pressing, and it's made the Mercenary a lot easier to play for me specifically. So it's just a much better way, I think, a much more simplified way of playing this class. And you can see I can just burst these guys down. I don't know where that damage came from, so I don't know what happened there. So those kinds of things do happen out of nowhere for this game, but either way, it's been pretty simple. I want to go ahead and show you guys what it looks like when we are doing Zest +2, so you guys can see the damage there. In terms of weapons, though, just try to get a good weapon with a high amount of physical damage, because that's how these things kind of work. So for my crossbow, I've got fire additional projectile for bombard, physical damage 174%, 2850 physical damage, 90 accuracy, 25% reduced attribute requirements, 70 life, 22 mana. So attribute requirements are going to be a big thing for this build. I think once you guys grab that specifically and are able to reduce those requirements, you'll be good to go as well, which is why I was able to get 120, 120, 57, which really made it look pretty easy. So let's go ahead and show Zest and how that's clearing, so you guys have an idea as well for this kind of build. So this is the actual Zest +2 run that I wanted to show you guys on how this build in fact actually works. Decimating Strike does a really good heavy lift amount right off the bat, so 20 to 25% damage overall off the first strike from the artillery ballistas that we have on file. Now at the same time though, we're regaining mana and gaining rage while we're playing, even though he's going to knock them down every once in a while due to AoE attacks. The thing is, though, damage is still looking pretty good. We're almost at 50% within the first phase before he goes underground to chase me. And, of course, I do choke out like a little punk because I'm more worried about the recording than I am about the actual fight. Pretty much always happens with me. So we're going to put down the ballistas again. As you can see, we are still doing great damage. Maim is applied. Chaos damage is applied. He's ignited as well. Every grenade's popping off. And as you can see, here's where I kind of like start choking right off the bat. Getting hit by that big hand isn't a good sign. Even then, though, the damage is still doing pretty good. We're doing all right. And the thing is, having that increased movement speed really does help out with a lot of the boss fights. On top of that, though, armor does in fact increase actual weight. So you got to be careful with the amount of actual movement speed you're getting. So if you're wearing heavy armor, it's going to be reduced more than you think it is. So here's where I choke up. And I get shot because I wasn't paying attention and really not caring about what was going on. Not bad for a beginning fight, though, trying to go through and figure things out. The thing is, though, a lot of what we do with this build is honestly really cool. It's not a on-meta build right now because, of course, lightning and ice is far better. But the thing is, I think this build actually works quite well, and putting it all together is pretty comparable to other places. It's not going to be your top end, but it'll still do something pretty good. If you guys have any ideas, though, of what else I can do to this build or help increase it, let me know in the comments section down below. If you want to adjust the POB, it's there for you as well in the description, or even make any changes for specific gears or uniques. I'd love to find out and hear it. Us working together makes things better, and then I can make another update video for the next season. But let me know what you guys think about the build as well. Any changes you want to make, let me know. And with all that, I just want to say thank you guys very much. If you want to see more of this kind of content, subscribe. We're on our way to 3,000 subs, and I do appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great one, and I'll see you next time.